The sound of the gunshot split the afternoon like a scream through glass. It was sharp, vicious, and wrong, the kind of sound you're never prepared to hear outside of movies or nightmares. I dropped the grocery bag as the crack echoed down the street. My daughter's crutches clattered to the pavement, followed by her body. For a moment, the world paused, as if even time itself had to register what had just happened. She had just stepped off the school van, just 15 feet from our front door. She was smiling. She was safe. Until she wasn't. I ran. I don't remember if I screamed. I think I did. I remember her hands trembling, trying to reach for me for something solid, something safe. There was blood on her sweater, the one she loved because it had little sunflowers embroidered near the sleeves. She was trying to say something, but her voice was too soft, too faint. I pressed my hands over the wound, not knowing what I was doing, just knowing I had to do something. I kept yelling for help, for someone to call 911, but our peaceful neighborhood suddenly felt like a graveyard, empty, quiet, useless. Then I saw her, standing in the bushes across the street, calm, watching. The same woman who once smiled at our holiday decorations, who asked about my daughter's therapy sessions at the HOA meetings, standing there with a handgun still in her shaking hand. Her name is Karen. And I wish I could tell you this was an accident, that she was aiming at something else, that she mistook a toy for a weapon, but she wasn't confused. She wasn't startled. She was waiting. She had planned this. This is not just a story about an HOA gone too far. This is the story of how one neighbor's hatred, masked by rules and regulations, turned into something far more dangerous, and how our fight for justice would expose everything that was hiding behind those perfectly trimmed hedges. But before we talk about how it ended, you need to understand how it all began. My name is Tyler Mason. I'm a single dad just trying to hold everything together one day at a time. My wife, Mia, passed away 6 years ago. It still hurts to say that out loud. She was my best friend, my compass, and the glue that held our little world in place. Since then, it's just been me and my daughter, Olivia. Olivia is 12. She was born with cerebral palsy, which means her legs don't work like most kids and she walks with crutches or uses a wheelchair when her muscles act up. But don't you dare pity her. She's the strongest person I know. I've watched her fall 10 times in a day and get up 11. I've watched her smile through pain, laugh when kids stared, and tell off adults who try to talk down her. She's funny, sharp as a tack, and obsessed with astronomy. Her dream? To work for NASA, specifically in astrophysics. I swear, she knows more about black holes than half the internet. After Mia passed, I knew I needed to give Olivia a peaceful, stable life. We moved to Willow Creek Estates, a quiet suburban neighborhood tucked just outside the city. Tree-lined streets, well-kept lawns, neighbors who wave, and a community park where kids ride bikes and dads grill on Sundays. It felt like the kind of place people write greeting cards about. Safe, clean, predictable. And for the first year, it was. Our house was modest, 2 stories, a small garden in front, and enough room for Olivia's therapy equipment and star maps. I spent weekends building her an accessible swing in the backyard and painting constellations on her bedroom ceiling. The neighbors were polite, not overly friendly, but civil. There was a sort of quiet, invisible barrier between everyone. People waved, but didn't linger. They smiled, but they didn't ask questions. That's when we met Karen. Karen lived 2 houses down in a pristine colonial with white shutters and a porch that had seasonal decor rotating like clockwork. At first glance, she seemed harmless. Retired mid-50s, single, 2 yappy little dogs she walked every morning. She introduced herself with a plate of lemon bars and a tight smile. "Welcome to Willow Creek," she said. "We take pride in our community here." I remember Olivia telling me later, "Dad, she smiles with her mouth, but not her eyes." Karen wasn't mean at first, just involved. She'd comment on our grass length. Mention the bins should be tucked back by noon on pickup day. Once, she left a note about our front door color being a bit bright for the aesthetic of the block. I didn't take it personally. I figured she was just one of those bored, overinvested HOA folks who needed to feel important. No big deal. Willow Creek had a homeowners association, strict but manageable. There were rules about fencing, garden layouts, parking angles. I'd skimmed the manual. Nothing outrageous. Olivia and I followed the rules. We kept our yard tidy. We added a small wheelchair ramp to the front porch, a smooth wooden slope with side rails, professionally installed and fully compliant. But that was the first time Karen complained directly to me. She stopped me on my driveway, eyebrows raised, lips pursed. "That ramp," she said, pointing with her thermos, "was that cleared with the HOA design committee?" "It's for my daughter," I replied calmly. "It meets ADA standards and I emailed the board." Karen smiled tightly. I just hope it doesn't set a precedent. Everyone modifying the neighborhood, look. That was the first time something in her tone felt wrong. Like the ramp wasn't the problem, Olivia was. Still, I brushed it off. I wanted to believe the best in people. We kept living our lives. Olivia started middle school and made friends. She loved science club and built a small telescope with her own savings and allowance. Every clear night, she'd roll herself out onto the patio, tilt her telescope to the stars, and talk to me about Saturn's rings or what a wormhole might feel like. We had pizza Fridays, movie marathons, dance parties in the kitchen. Life wasn't perfect, but it was good. Then the letters started. Anonymous notes in our mailbox, printed, not handwritten. Things like, "Your daughter's noisy play is disruptive to the peace," or "Please consider curtains. Not everyone wants to see your disability equipment." One note said, "Maybe this isn't the right community for your kind." At first, I thought it was a random bigot, but then Karen began showing up more, always at odd times. She'd walk by slowly when Olivia was outside. Sometimes she'd stop and pretend to be on the phone, listening. Once, I caught her taking photos of our backyard. She waved it off, saying she was documenting HOA compliance issues. It started to feel like surveillance, like harassment, but when I reported it to the HOA board, I was told Karen had tenure and that she was just upholding standards. The board, it turned out, was mostly her retired friends. I tried to keep calm for Olivia. I didn't want to drag her into adult politics or neighborhood feuds. But Olivia noticed. She told me Karen stared at her on the school van drop-off, that she overheard Karen talking to another neighbor, calling her an attention seeker in leg braces. Something was brewing beneath the surface of Willow Creek. And it wasn't just Karen's petty notes or HOA obsession. It was deeper, uglier, a resentment, maybe a disgust she couldn't say out loud, but let leak in every sideways glance, every complaint. One afternoon, Olivia asked, "Dad, do you think people like us ruin places like this?" It shattered me. I knelt beside her and said, "Sweetheart, people like us make places like this better. We bring heart where there's only rules. Don't ever let anyone make you feel less than." But as much as I tried to be strong, I knew something was wrong. The neighborhood had changed. Or maybe it had always been this way, and I was just now seeing it clearly. And as we'd come to find out, the worst was still to come. It started with a flag. Olivia had just finished reading about the Mars Perseverance rover and wanted to do something fun. So we ordered a custom flag for our porch, dark red, with a silhouette of an astronaut standing on a barren planet. At the bottom, in big bold print, it read, "Future Martian, dream big." She was beaming when we hung it up. It was her way of saying, "I belong in this universe too." 2 days later, we received a violation notice taped to our door. No envelope, just a printout in bold font from the HOA, unapproved flag or symbol. Must be removed within 48 hours. Not aligned with community standards. No signature, no contact person. Just a deadline. I knew exactly where it had come from. I walked down the street to Karen's house, intending to be civil. She was on her porch, sipping tea and scrolling on her tablet. "Karen," I said, keeping my voice calm, "did you report our flag?" She didn't look up. The HOA has aesthetic rules, Tyler. Flags not related to national holidays or military service aren't allowed. You would know that if you read the manual. It's a kid's flag, I replied. It's about space exploration. You've got 5 ceramic flamingos in your garden. Does that count as aesthetic? She finally met my eyes. Her smile was tight. Some of us are grandfathered in. That was her favorite word, grandfathered, a past to be cruel, hidden behind tradition. I tried the formal route. I wrote the HOA board a letter requesting permission to keep the flag up. I attached a picture of Olivia holding it, her face glowing with pride. No response. After a week, I received a second violation notice, this one with a threat of fines, $50 per day of noncompliance. So I took it down. Not because I agreed, but because I didn't want Olivia to see that the world could be that petty. Or maybe because I didn't want her to know that I was losing control over keeping her safe and happy in this place. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Shortly after, the complaints escalated. One morning, I got an email titled Noise Complaint, Child Activity After Dark. It referenced unusual metallic clanking sounds and high-pitched laughter. The timestamp? 8:20 p.m. Olivia and I had been assembling a model of the solar system on the back patio. She'd accidentally knocked over her crutches, and we both laughed when it startled our cat. Apparently, that was disruptive behavior. I replied, explaining everything. I even included an apology, not because I felt we were wrong, but because I was still trying to be the bigger person, still trying to play their game. That's when the letters turned ugly. The next one arrived folded into our mailbox without postage. It wasn't on HOA stationery. It wasn't even typed this time, just a handwritten note scrawled in red ink. Maybe it's time you found a more suitable neighborhood, one that fits your situation. Some of us moved here for peace, not pity parades. I stood there, staring at the page, my hands trembling. I wasn't sure if I was angry or scared. Maybe both. I showed the note to Olivia, not the exact words, just told her someone was upset about the noise. She didn't cry. She just looked at me and said, "Why does it always feel like I have to apologize for existing?" That sentence cut deeper than anything Karen could ever write. Then came the first public confrontation. It was a warm Saturday, and the HOA was hosting their quarterly community cleanup day. I didn't usually attend, but Olivia insisted. She wanted to help plant flowers near the park entrance. We both showed up early, gloves on, shovels in hand. Karen was already there, clipboard pressed tightly against her chest, coordinating like it was a military operation. She saw us approach and visibly stiffened. Olivia offered a small wave. "Hi, Miss Karen." Karen stared at her, then looked at me. "You didn't RSVP." "It's a community event," I replied. "There are guidelines," she said. "It's not a free-for-all. We already have volunteers assigned to each section." "Well," I said, gesturing toward Olivia, "we'll take the east flower bed. Won't get in anyone's way." Karen stepped forward, lowering her voice, but not the intensity. "This is not a playground, Tyler. If your daughter trips and falls into the road or damages something, the HOA becomes liable." I stepped between them. "She's not a liability. She's a 12-year-old girl who wants to help." Karen's lips curled into something between a smirk and a sneer. "Some things just don't belong here. That's not personal. It's just community standards." I looked around. People were watching. No one stepped in. Not one neighbor spoke up. Just quick glances and heads turned away. We left. Olivia didn't say a word all the way home. But that night, she didn't take her telescope out. She didn't even look at the stars. The breaking point of this stage came when Karen tried to interfere directly with Olivia's access to our home. One afternoon, I came home early from work to find a contractor's van parked in front of our driveway. A man in a reflective vest was using a measuring tape across our front walkway. I asked him what he was doing. HOA told us to assess this for potential removal, he said, pointing to the wheelchair ramp. Apparently, it wasn't approved. I stared at him. "That ramp's been here for over a year. It's legal. It's ADA compliant." He shrugged. "I just follow orders, man." I stormed down the block, past the hydrangeas and identical mailboxes, and banged on Karen's door. She answered without surprise, as if she was waiting. "You try to have Olivia's ramp removed?" I asked. She folded her arms. "It was never formally approved, and it protrudes slightly beyond the regulation porch line. You know exactly why that ramp is there." "I know what the rules say," she snapped. "And if everyone starts bending them for sympathy cases, what kind of neighborhood will we have?" "Better than this one," I muttered. She leaned in slightly, her eyes narrow. "You think your daughter gives you immunity? That you're entitled to more because she limps around with her little braces?" I didn't hit her. God knows I wanted to, but I didn't. I just turned around and walked away. That night, I filed a formal complaint with the city, citing discrimination under the Fair Housing Act. I also contacted a local disability rights lawyer, and I told Olivia everything not to frighten her, but because she deserved to know we weren't going to stay quiet anymore. But things didn't stop. If anything, they got worse. 2 weeks later, our security camera caught someone trying to loosen the screws on the ramp railing late at night. The footage was grainy, and the person wore a hoodie, but the gait, it looked a lot like Karen. Police filed a report but said, without a clear ID, there wasn't much they could do. I knew then this wasn't just harassment anymore. This was sabotage. This was dangerous. Karen didn't just dislike us. She wanted us gone. And I was beginning to realize she was willing to do anything to make that happen. After the incident with the ramp and the shadowy figure caught on our security footage, I installed additional cameras, one facing the front porch, one covering the backyard, and another near the garage. Olivia didn't ask questions. She just watched me work, holding a flashlight, her eyes sharper than I'd ever seen them. She was starting to understand things I never wanted her to understand, like how adults can be cruel and how evil can wear a polite smile. It didn't take long before the HOA fines started piling in. One for excessive seasonal lighting after Olivia strung a soft row of star-shaped LED lights on her window. Another for unauthorized garden decor, a small planter with herbs she'd been growing for a science project. Even one for a nuisance odor, which I assumed referred to the night we grilled steaks for her birthday. Every fine was accompanied by a threat: pay within 10 days or legal action would be pursued. I tried appealing, but the HOA's website redirected to a broken form page. When I called the office, the line either rang endlessly or went straight to voicemail. I knew who was behind it, and I knew she wasn't just using the rules anymore, she was weaponizing them. But it wasn't just us feeling the pressure. At school, things shifted too. Olivia started coming home quieter. Her usual hour-long rants about wormholes and galaxy clusters turned into short, distracted answers. When I asked what was wrong, she shrugged. "Just tired, Dad." I didn't buy it. It came to a head one Friday when I got a call from the school counselor. Olivia had been found crying in the bathroom. Not just a few tears, shaking, sobbing, the kind of crying that comes from deep confusion and shame. When I got there, she wouldn't even lift her head. Later that night, it came out. A new girl had joined her class, Madison. Turns out she was Karen's granddaughter, recently moved in with her. On her first day, she pointed at Olivia's leg braces and loudly asked if she was crippled. When Olivia ignored her, Madison whispered, "My grandma says your dad makes up stories to get free stuff, that you guys are frauds." The bullying didn't stop there. In the lunchroom, Olivia's lunch was knocked over 3 days in a row. Notes appeared in her locker: "Wheelie girl, astro freak, cripple, doesn't belong here." And every time Olivia reported it, the teachers said, "We'll look into it." They never did. I met with the principal. I brought in copies of the notes. I showed her the ramp removal order and the HOA fines and tried to explain the bigger picture. Her expression never changed. "We have no control over what students hear at home, Mr. Mason. But I can assure you, we do not tolerate bullying here." Words. Always words. No action. I thought about transferring Olivia to another school. But why should she have to leave the place she loved because someone else raised a monster? Karen's presence grew more physical. We started seeing her everywhere: the grocery store, the gas station. One night, we caught her car slowly rolling past our driveway around 11:30 p.m. Olivia spotted it from her bedroom window and came rushing into my room. "She's watching us," she said, pale-faced. The next day, Karen confronted Olivia at the mailbox. She waited until I'd driven off to work and cornered her. Olivia told me later that she said, "If you keep making trouble for this community, people will start asking questions. Maybe your dad's not as honest as he pretends to be." I filed a police report. Again. They took it down. Again. Unfortunately, the officer told me, "Unless she trespasses or makes a direct threat, there's not much we can do. It's a civil matter." Civil. Is following a child around and whispering veiled threat civil? Is filling a disabled child's world with fear and hostility civil? I installed a Ring doorbell, then floodlights, then a motion-activated speaker. But no security measure could make us feel safe. Olivia stopped going outside. She began sleeping in my room again, like she did when Mia first passed. But Karen wasn't finished. One Saturday morning, Olivia and I decided to run errands together, just normal father-daughter stuff. Grab groceries, swing by the bookstore, get milkshakes. We didn't realize we were being followed until we were almost home. Karen's white SUV stayed exactly 2 car lengths behind us the entire way back. I slowed down. She slowed. I turned onto a side street. So did she. I finally pulled into a gas station and got out of the car. She drove by slowly, sunglasses on, and smiled. I reported it. Again. Nothing happened. That night, I woke up to a sound outside, like something scraping softly against glass. I grabbed the baseball bat from beside the bed and tiptoed to the front window. And there she was, Karen, crouched beside our living room window, her phone out, filming, peeking inside like she was casing a store. I yanked open the door and shouted, "HEY!" She didn't run. She smiled. That same tight, teeth-clenched smile. "You really shouldn't leave lights on all night," she said calmly. "Wastes energy. Might be a violation. You're trespassing." "I'm inspecting," she replied, tapping her clipboard. "We've received complaints." Then she turned and walked away like nothing had happened. This time I had proof. The camera above the porch caught the whole thing. I sent it to the HOA board, the police, even the city council. The HOA responded with a legal notice warning me not to harass or surveil community board members without consent. The police told me to install a higher fence. The city council didn't respond at all. I began to feel like I was screaming into a void. No one cared. No one wanted to be the one who gets involved. Karen had poisoned the well so thoroughly that we were no longer seen as a family under attack. We were seen as troublemakers, outsiders, the problem on the block. Olivia picked up on it too. She started asking questions that made my chest ache. "Dad, would people like us be more welcome in space? Do you think if I wasn't disabled, we'd be normal? If she hurts me again, will anyone believe us?" I never had good answers, just hugs, and promises I wasn't sure I could keep. But I knew this. We couldn't keep living like this. We couldn't keep waiting for Karen to escalate again. Because I had a terrible feeling, the next time, she wouldn't just be holding a clipboard, she'd be holding something else. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Olivia always came home early on Tuesdays. Her science teacher let her leave 5 minutes before the bell to avoid the crowd. She loved that little routine, how it made her feel a bit like a VIP. That day, she wore her favorite green hoodie, the one with the tiny stitch planets on the sleeves. Her crutches clicked with every step as she made her way from the van to the front door, humming softly, something from a space documentary she'd been watching the night before. I was inside, unloading groceries in the kitchen. The windows were open. The air was crisp, the kind of early spring chill that felt like a new beginning. Then I heard the crack. At first, I didn't process it. My brain labeled it as a firecracker, maybe a car backfiring. But then, something heavy hit the ground. I heard metal clatter her crutches, and then silence. A silence so unnatural, so wrong, that it yanked me out of my own body. I ran. When I reached the door, I saw her. Olivia was lying on the front walkway, her body twisted awkwardly, eyes wide in shock. Her right leg, was bleeding, blood soaked into the concrete like ink into paper. Her mouth was moving, but no sound came out, just a soft gurgle. Her crutches were scattered beside her, one bent at a grotesque angle. My body moved before I could think. I dropped to my knees, pressing my hands over the wound, just like they teach you in first aid videos. Olivia, stay with me. Hey, look at me, sweetheart, look at me. She blinked. She was trying to speak. Shoot, it's okay. I've got you. You're okay. I've got you. I screamed for help, screamed so loud I thought my throat would tear open. Someone call 911. She's been shot. And then movement. Across the street. I looked up and there she was, Karen, standing half hidden behind her perfectly trimmed hydrangea bushes, holding something in her hand. A gun. A real one. Small, black, and trembling slightly in her grip. Her eyes met mine, and I swear I saw no fear, no shock, just cold calculation. She didn't run. She didn't say a word. She just turned slowly and walked back into her house like she'd finished watering her lawn. I wanted to chase her. I wanted to tear her door off its hinges. But Olivia's fingers were squeezing mine, weakly. So I stayed. The sirens came fast, too fast, like they were already close. Maybe a neighbor heard the shot. Maybe someone did care after all. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lit up our quiet little street. Paramedics swarmed the driveway. They lifted Olivia carefully, gently, like she was made of glass. I rode with her in the ambulance, holding her hand the entire way. She never passed out. She stayed awake, eyes locked on mine, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. At the hospital, they rushed her into surgery. The bullet had entered her upper thigh and missed a major artery by less than an inch. The doctors said she was lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt broken. Karen was arrested that same evening. Police found the gun hidden in a locked garden shed behind her house. Her fingerprints were all over it. No one believed her when she said she was scaring away a stray dog. Not this time. Not after everything. The media showed up within 24 hours. Local girl shot in HOA dispute. Wheelchair-bound girl targeted by neighborhood bully. Reporters camped outside the hospital. Strangers sent flowers. Disability rights groups launched campaigns in Olivia's name. For the first time, the world saw Karen for who she truly was, not a strict neighbor, not a misunderstood rule keeper, but a bitter woman consumed by hate. I spent 3 days in the hospital, sleeping in a stiff chair, never leaving Olivia's side. She didn't say much, but when she finally spoke, she whispered. I knew it would be her. I just didn't think it would hurt this much. My heart shattered all over again. Karen was denied bail. The charges: aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, child endangerment, and a hate crime enhancement. Her HOA allies went silent. Some resigned. Others gave hollow statements to the press, distancing themselves. But none of it mattered to me. Not the news, not the apologies. All I cared about was the girl in the hospital bed with bandages on her leg and fear in her eyes. Because the truth was, the bullet didn't just pierce Olivia's skin. It pierced something deeper. Her trust, her belief in kindness, her childhood. And that was the real wound. The hospital room was cold, too white, too clean. Every beep and soft whir of the machines felt like a countdown, measuring the distance between who Olivia was before the shooting and who she'd be after. The surgery had gone well, the doctors said. The bullet missed the femoral artery, but damaged tissue and bone. Her leg would take months to heal. Physical therapy, pain management follow-ups. They reassured me she'd walk again, eventually, but no one could tell me how long it would take for the fear to fade from her eyes. I sat by her bed day and night. She barely spoke those first few days, except to ask things that shattered me. Why would she do that? Was it because of my crutches? Am I safe now? The nurses were gentle. Volunteers came by with books and puzzles. One man, a veteran amputee, brought Olivia a signed NASA poster and whispered, "They don't let gravity stop them, and neither will you." She smiled faintly at that. But nothing could erase what had happened. My little girl had been shot on our front lawn by the woman who lived 2 doors down. And the worst part? It wasn't some random act of madness. It was slow, planned, calculated, the end result of months of hate that no one had taken seriously. And now I was done staying quiet. By day 4, the media storm hit full force. Every headline screamed a variation of the same outrage: disabled girl shot in HOA dispute, Karen shoots neighbor's child after ongoing harassment, 12-year-old in leg braces targeted by neighborhood vigilante. Local stations aired footage from our ring camera. The ramp sabotage, the confrontation at the mailbox, Karen peeking through our windows. I leaked it all. Every image, every clip, every fine, every note. And the public? They were furious. Support flooded in. Disability rights activists organized marches outside the HOA office. A local law firm offered to represent us pro bono. Olivia received thousands of letters, drawings, even a video from an astronaut saying, "Keep dreaming, Commander Olivia. We're saving you a seat on the rocket." We felt it, this wave of love, of rage, of people finally opening their eyes. And Karen? Karen played the victim. Her lawyer spun a narrative so absurd, so offensive that it almost worked. She feared for her life. She believed the child had a weapon. She was mentally unstable and had suffered a break under stress. They plastered her face across morning shows, hair curled, cardigan perfect, voice trembling. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she sniffled. "I was just trying to protect our neighborhood from danger." Danger. She meant Olivia. Some news channels bit. They floated the mental health defense. They showed old photos of Karen smiling at block parties, holding cupcakes. But others pushed back hard. The story evolved into something bigger. How HOA power structures can be abused. How disability bias hides behind compliance and aesthetic rules. How communities fail the vulnerable when they ignore microaggressions. I knew then we weren't just fighting Karen anymore. We were fighting a whole system that enabled her. So I fought. I spent hours compiling a legal case with our new attorney. We filed a civil suit against Karen and the HOA board for discrimination, harassment, and emotional trauma. We gathered every fine, every recording, every email, every unacknowledged complaint. In court, I watched Karen squirm as her own words were read aloud. "Some of us moved here for peace, not pity parades. We can't have everyone modifying the neighborhood look just for sympathy." She's limping around with her little braces. The jury looked disgusted. But Karen didn't go down easy. She tried to counter Sue, claimed we were defaming her, that I was inciting a mob against her by releasing the footage, that Olivia provoked her, that her gun accidentally discharged. I almost laughed in court. Almost. But then I looked at Olivia, sitting beside me in a wheelchair, her legs still braced, her face paler than usual. And I didn't laugh. I burned. Public pressure mounted. Petitions went viral. Justice for Olivia trended across Twitter and TikTok. Local leaders scrambled to issue statements. The city council launched a probe into the HOA. 3 board members resigned. The HOA president, Karen's best friend, was caught deleting emails and fined for obstruction. Karen's reputation crumbled. Her house was vandalized with ableist scum spray painted on her fence. Her dogs were taken by animal control for neglect. The woman who once patrolled the neighborhood with a clipboard and a fake smile was now a pariah. And yet, Olivia didn't gloat. She didn't ask for revenge. She just said, "I want people like her to be stopped before they hurt someone else." That's who she is. 3 months later, the criminal trial ended. Karen was sentenced to 22 years without parole, assault with a deadly weapon, child endangerment, aggravated hate crime. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. Olivia held my hand and squeezed. Afterward, we stepped outside to a sea of cameras. Olivia asked to speak. She rolled up to the podium, cleared her throat, and said, "I may walk differently. I may live differently, but I am not less. And no one gets to decide who belongs and who doesn't. Not a neighbor, not a rule book, not a bully with a gun. There wasn't a dry eye. That night, as we sat together watching the stars from the hospital's rooftop garden, Olivia finally smiled again. Do you think people like us can change things? I looked at her, her leg elevated, her hand wrapped around a cup of warm cocoa. We already did. Because justice isn't just a courtroom decision. It's a girl refusing to let fear define her. It's a community finally waking up. It's a father choosing not to run, but to fight. And this fight wasn't over. But for the first time, it was fair. It's been 9 months since that shot rang out in front of our home and shattered everything we thought we knew about safety, about neighbors, about how far hate can go when it wears the disguise of rules. Karen is behind bars. 22 years. No parole. No appeals left. Her house was sold at auction. Her name stripped from every HOA record. Her legacy reduced to a cautionary tale. Willow Creek Estates will never forget her. Not because of who she was, but because of what she revealed. After the sentencing, we moved, not out of fear, out of choice. We found a home in a small lakeside town, one that didn't care about the color of your mailbox or whether your porch light stayed on past 10 p.m. Our new neighbors greeted Olivia with cookies and stories, not clipboards and warnings. No one stared at her leg brace. No one asked if she was allowed to have a ramp. The ramp at our new house is permanent. It's built into the front steps like it belongs there, because it does, just like she does. Olivia still walks with a brace, but she's stronger than ever. She finished physical therapy a month ago and now insists on climbing the stairs every night to her room, even if it takes her a while. She says she wants to remember she can. The nightmares still come sometimes, but they don't last, and neither do the tears. She went back to science club, gave a speech at a disability rights fundraiser, and even helped design a new accessibility wing for our town's public library. They named it the Olivia Mason Observatory Room. You should have seen her face when they unveiled the plaque. As for me, I've stopped asking why. I no longer try to reason with evil or search for logic in hatred. Some people just can't stand seeing others live outside the lines they've drawn in their narrow, bitter minds. Karen wasn't just a neighbor with a grudge. She was a warning. That intolerance doesn't always wear a swastika. It often shows up with a polite wave, a cardigan, and a clipboard. And that's what I want people to remember. Not just the court case or the media headlines or the viral hashtags. But this, sometimes the enemy wears a smile and carries a clipboard. Sometimes they use bylaws instead of bullets, until they don't. Olivia's story is not about tragedy. It's about power, the quiet, unstoppable power of refusing to be erased. It's about how a girl who limped to her mailbox came back with the weight of justice behind her. It's about how hate loses when love doesn't back down. To every parent watching this, believe your kids when they say something feels wrong. To every community, don't wait for violence to expose the rot. Listen, intervene, stand up. And to every Olivia out there, in braces or not, you belong, you matter. And no one, not a neighbor, not a rule book, not a coward with a gun, gets to take your future from you. We didn't just survive Karen. We outgrew her, and we're never going back.